Are there any questions on Shalom Bais, first of all? Shalom Bais means getting along with your husband. Having peace in the house.
I have a question.
Yes.
If we are allowed to lie in a light way to avoid the war, or if we have to say everything, even though this can...
Of course, no. You don't have to say everything if it's going to cause problems. One of the traits that the Almighty has given women is called Bina. That's where we're strong. We're going to learn about it. There's Chachma, Bina, and Das. It says Chachma we have, Das we're weak on, and Bina we're strong, is our strength over men. Bina means understanding human nature. Okay? Understanding something from another thing. Lahavin davar b'tach davar, understanding one thing from another thing. It's very, very important that we use our Bina in our relationships with our husband and with children. Okay? If we see things just the way it is, it's a problem. Do you understand? If a child tells you, I was so-and-so, and you suspect that it's not so-and-so, they went out to do the wrong thing, you have to be able to differentiate and know what's going on. So it's very, very important that we use our, this is really no good, that we use our Bina and our understanding. You understand? I'm going to give you an example that's given from Bina. Some of you might have heard this before. The problem is I'm facing this side. So this, you see the side of my face. Okay. A story that the Gemara gives is that somebody knocked on a door of a home and wanted to come in and said, I'm looking for a place to stay. I don't have where to stay. Can I please stay in your home? The woman looks at him and started suspecting, I don't know, he looks to me like, who knows if I can trust him. Okay? So, what did she do? She said, okay, but on the other hand, you don't refuse people who have no place to stay. So she put him on the loft. The loft meant years ago that you had some stairs, you had like a ladder, and you had some hay on top of the ladder. There was like a loft, and there was some hay there. They made a bed out of it. She put him to sleep there. Why did she put him to sleep there? Because after he went to sleep, she went and she took away the ladder. In other words, if he came here to steal, then he's going to try to get down and not suspect, especially not in the dark, that the ladder was taken away. You understand? And if he really slept through the night and was a very honest person, then he's not going to know, because he's going to get up very early and put the ladder back before he gets up in the morning. That's what we call Bina. It's tricky. In other words, and he did in the middle of the night actually come down, and there was a big bang in the middle of the night, and he fell down, etc. But the Gemara tells us that women were given this extra intuition to understand people's nature. Some of us are better at it, some of us are a little weaker at it, but it's something that we need to be able to deal with our husbands and how to do it properly, nicely, you understand? And understanding when a person comes and tells you I have a problem, and I don't like this and this or whatever, I know if the student comes and starts complaining, there's always something behind it. She was hurt that day, she's not feeling well, there's something else behind it that's triggering it. It's not a small thing. When you make a big deal out of nothing, then there's something there. You know what I'm saying? And many, many times a person says, like, I'm sick and tired of the system, I'm sick of Yiddishkeit. They're really would like a shidduch and can't find a shidduch. You see what I'm saying? That's really what's bothering them. But they're blaming it on all of Yiddishkeit, or they're blaming it on the whole place they're in, or I don't like Crown Heights, people are not friendly. What do they really mean? I need a shidduch. And nobody's helping me, or people are helping me, but I'm not getting the right way. Do you understand? So anybody that still has a little bit more Bina is going to think about it and say, what is really bothering this girl? What's bothering this young man? What's bothering them? Or tries to do their homework. I believe very much that people have to hear what's going on. When you're able to see it properly, then you're able to sit and make up your mind about, you're able to understand to help that person. You have to do research on it. It's not necessarily what you see. So this is called Bina, understanding something from something else. Assessing a situation, okay? Hashem gave that to women. It says, Bina Yisera Nitna L'isha. An added amount of understanding is given to women because for them to handle their home properly, they have to properly assess the situation, maybe get some help on it, and that's why we need mashpiyim, but figure out how am I going to deal with this. Just, you said something, a child says something, I read about years ago, whatever, the child came home and says, I hate school, I'm not going back to school. No. What you really want to know is what happened that day, what's going on. And this mother, as she starts asking, sometimes people just say, well, I also hated school. Or, okay, so what do you want me to do? You want me to get you a job? Is that what you want? Try to figure out why is that child saying, and we do that very quickly sometimes. You don't like this friend? Okay, don't be his friend anymore. He hit you? Okay, so hit him back. Or don't go there anymore. Do you understand what I'm saying? What is really going on there? Did you start up with this person? Why do you not like this person? What's behind it? So he gives an example there that this child, the first reaction of the mother was, okay, so what do you want? Do you want a job? You're a 16-year-old kid? Okay, let's quit school and finish. What the child was basically saying when she went into it is, why do you not like school? Teachers are stupid. Why teachers stupid? She gave me a bad mark on the test. Why did she give a bad test? This kid is not good in math, doesn't have the skills, got a bad mark in school, and is so fed up that just screams, I hate school. He didn't mean the end result should be that he should quit school now and be a high school dropout and get a job. But the mother jumped there because she remembers that she also didn't like school. Meanwhile, what the kid is saying, I'm having a hard time. I'm going to get bad marks. You're going to see my reports card soon, and you're going to be very angry with me. So I'm coming and blaming it on the world before you see my report card, so you won't blame me. That's all this kid meant. But with her reaction, she killed it. Okay? Bina means listen, understand, and figure out how to deal with it. So you asked a question now. Okay? So this is with children. And the same thing with husbands. They're frustrated with their job. Why? What is it? What's going on there? How can I help you? Maybe what you need is to take a course so you'll do a better job. Maybe you need a change in a job. Maybe it's not good for you ruchnius wise. He comes home and all of a sudden he has bad. Sometimes the child comes to bad friends. Sometimes the husband is not in the right place. He's also reading something he shouldn't be reading and in the wrong things. He's too depressed because things aren't going, not bringing a lot of money. We have to have an ear that's very, very refined and able to pick up and this bina of understanding. You understand? So when it comes to both raising children and having proper Shalom Bais, we need this bina. So now you asked a question, which is a side question, which basically, not a side question, which is saying, are you allowed to lie? Okay. So the answer is, I don't know if you're allowed to lie, but it says for Shalom Bais, we sometimes have to switch things. You don't have to say it directly. You may need some help to figure out how to say it. But not everything has to be said. Like even before a shidduch, in a shidduch, sometimes, let's say a person has a medical condition. You right away, the first time you meet a guy, you say, listen, I have a medical condition. Is that going to be smart? You basically, so some people say, I want them to know I'm a very honest person. I want to say it straight out. I don't want to have disappointments later. You didn't give a chance. You didn't let the guy have a chance to meet you, to see you, maybe like you, and they maybe accept you later. And many of these things are questions we have for a Rav. Sometimes if there is a certain condition, whether it's medical, whether it's psychological, whether it's family, whether it's whatever it is, it's something to discuss with a mashpia or Rav. When do I say? When do I not say? You understand? Now everything has to be blurted out like that. So everything in life needs a little bit of bina. Sometimes a little more, and sometimes a little less. So it's not the question of lying. It's a question of, is not saying something a lie? If the person didn't ask you, especially directly, which way can you do it? You understand? What happened by Yaakov? Yaakov said, Ani, when he dressed up like Esav. It was a question of getting the brachas. He needed those brachas. He knew that his brother was wicked. He knew that his father didn't recognize him for the reason. Father recognized that he wasn't a great person, but he thought that he knew also that he had very higher he comes from a higher source, and therefore he can accomplish more, and he was thinking of it in a spiritual way, in that way. But the bottom line is, he needed those brachas. Okay? So his mother told him, dress up like Esav. And go in. And then when Yaakov asked you, who are you? What did he say? I am who I am. He said, I am Esav, your oldest son. Okay? Your firstborn. But what he said was and he thought to himself, I am who I am. Esav is your eldest son. And that's the way he got the brachas. And that had to go that way. So sometimes, like I say, this is a question sometimes for a rabbi, for a mashpia. And sometimes just in life, you learn not to say things because you can't say them. If you're going to say them, you don't make, Shalom Bais is important. Do you understand? Having a healthy relationship, a normal relationship. And why many girls say things like talk about their past. Why do you talk about your past? Why is it necessary? I want to be honest. It's not healthy for him to know about certain things you did in your past.
But it's important that the person loves me more for my dark side than...
That he loves you more for your dark side than your white side?
Yeah. Not because I'm beautiful, I have money, I have a culture, it's easy.
But your past, certain things in your past at certain times are not healthy to talk about.
Yeah.
You want the person to... Look, you could say, listen, I had, I'm a Baal Tshuva, I have a past, etc., etc. Let's not go there. Mm-hmm. You're a Baal Tshuva, maybe that's why it's very good, by the way, for people for similar backgrounds to get married, so everybody forgives each other. Everybody understands each other. Not always that happens, but I'm just saying, but if you feel the person is not going to be able to take your past, maybe it's not a shidduch for you.
As long as your past is behind you and it's not affecting you, then it should be. Then you don't have
right, but sometimes you say things that are going to make them start. Their head goes there, and they can't see you for who you are today.
That's what I'm saying. So that's why it's if it's unnecessary and it
if it's
doesn't
exactly,
you today, I don't
exactly,
think it needs to be said.
Exactly. So the question in halacha, it's something else, but just generally speaking.
If you're still having an issue with something, then maybe you could say. But if you're.
And the question is when. Maybe after you have a much stronger, it's of a stronger relationship. In other words, it's more cemented. It's stronger. Do you understand? After you know him, how it's going to affect him. Sometimes if I say a certain thing, it's going to affect him badly, and therefore I just don't even want this kind of person because I need someone who could accept me for who I am. So then he's not the right person. But if you're going to go on the first date and say this is to everybody on a first date, you go and it's supposed to spill out, I did this and this and this. You're killing your chances, number one. And you have to know the person. If he's not going to be able to accept this, then just say goodbye. He doesn't have to know everything about you.
And it's the same vice versa.
What?
It's the same vice versa. Someone else, if you're talking with someone else, you would probably not want to go out with them again if they told you their whole bad stuff.
Exactly. The first thing I'm going to go out, I'm going to say, listen, I want you to know, I had 15 operations on my head, but it's true. What?
In Shidduchim, they'll say you must tell certain things.
There's certain things you have to tell, and certain things, and you know what? Sometimes a guy will call me up and say, ask me about a certain girl, and I ask them about themselves, and I say, and I think to myself, this is not going to go. He's not going to accept a girl like this. So let's not even get it anywhere. It's none of his business to find out. For me to say her background, if let's say somebody's not ready to take a Gioris as an example, and I know that this girl is a Gioris, I don't have to say she's a Gioris. I can just say it's not for you. And that's it. Why go there? If that's one of his conditions, are this, and this, he's very into yichus, he's very into the family, etc., etc., it's just not a good shidduch. You understand? If a guy is very, very into looks and the girl's not pretty, but I don't have to say she's not pretty, it's just not for you. It's not what you're looking for.
Maybe for him it's going to be pretty.
Yeah, maybe.
Go take that chance. If you know that this guy is into looks, that's his main thing is looks. I agree with you. I've seen guys that told me I want pretty girls, and the person they married was far from pretty in my opinion.
See, so if they
I
say
agree.
I'm blonde,
Okay, I'll give you an example. I only want a very thin girl, a tall, thin girl.
Okay. Okay, so it's specific.
If she's short and she's not so thin, right? That's what I'm saying. It's specific.
It's specific.
And there are guys that I know that we've tried here a few times one girl, a second girl, everybody was no. And then we figured out, I asked him point blank, are you looking for a girl that looks like a model? He says, yes. So why am I wasting my time?
Can a girl do the same thing?
What, she wants a guy that's a model?
It is very good looking.
Okay, I'm sorry, you want to ask something?
Yeah, that's what I was asking. So there's certain things though that you are required to reveal.
That are required to what?
Reveal.
Like what? They're talking about like you mean the person's background?
Certain things.
Yes, but sometimes I just want to avoid it. If it's not going to go anywhere, what you don't have to. You know what a yent is? Yent is somebody that talks about other people. I'm not interested in giving information that's not going to get anywhere, and maybe even detrimental or whatever it may be. It's not necessary. Why? If it's a question of the guy wants a tall girl, the girl is short, I have no problem saying I'm sorry, but she's not tall enough for you. You understand? Or some people say, listen, are you ready? Does background bother you? Some people are looking for intelligence. Again, you might think this girl that other people think is not too intelligent, he thinks is intelligent. So you have to assess if you're a good shadchan or whatever it may be. You're going to assess what is his level of intelligence, or what does he consider intelligent. There's a lot of different things that when you interview a person, you find out a little about them. So before a person does a shidduch, they really should do that. I'm not saying we're 100% right in what and people do change their mind, and people don't always express themselves properly, but there's certain things that are black and white. You know, I had a few times guys came into me, and the guy, I'm not a shotgun by the way, but I did meet guys, and they'll come into me, and the guy is like in his 40s or late 30s, whatever, and he only wants a 19-year-old girl. Okay? Or he only wants it, whatever, the girl that's, 25 and he's 40. Okay, the Rebbe said 10 years, so whatever. But bottom line is obviously this guy has some things in his head that if you could change them, go ahead. If you're not going to change them and he's going to remain stubborn with that, and many times I told the guy, listen, I can't read you a shidduch. Don't come to me. You came to the wrong place.
Was he rich?
Okay, so you just said something, which is basically, you just made it clear that you would consider it if the guy was rich. No, which is fine. So I'm saying if we know that that's the case, then you would maybe go for a guy that's older. So in such a case, we But sometimes I feel that there's something in their head that's lacking there. Okay? No, it's not kidding. You said you are kidding, but you're not kidding. Okay? So that's pretty revealing. But I'm saying, so you have to know. So a person that's going to read you a shidduch has to keep that in mind. Do you understand?
To check the bank account.
What?
Check your bank account.
Check his bank account. In other words, for her it would be, some people, in other words, would say it's worthwhile marrying somebody older as long as he could provide for me and provide nicely. So fine, so he's a little older, big deal. To some people, that's not going to go. Okay, so these are things this is all, by the way, in the realm of Bina. Hashem gave us that talent, and we have to use it. And also what it teaches us is that when you go to a shadchan, try to find somebody that knows you, okay? Not knows you, but is really, you feel the person got you, so that there won't be a lot of just aggravation in the middle. But your question was more about, do you have to be straight? And the answer is, we have to know when to be straight. A lie is a lie, but when is it like a way of getting out of it, or finding a way out of it, or just avoiding it, or not talking about it, whatever. Okay? And sometimes, it's just not going to go. If this guy does not want certain things, I'm not even going to bother to get myself upset. He's just not for me. Don't waste your time. If a dress is a size 2 and you're a size 6, don't bother to buy the dress 6 and think you're going to fit into it. It's not going to work unless you want to take it apart. But it's very, very difficult operation when you're trying to change a person and his way of thinking. Okay, so one part. Anybody else? Any questions about? Yes.
If something's bothering you with him, I don't know what. Is it better to like say something early, or wait and risk making it aggravate you more? You know what I'm saying?
To who? See?
Your husband.
If you should say it,
If you just said, or like wait, but then maybe you're gonna be even more upset or something.
we have to. This is called communication. There has to be a line of communication where you should be able to say things. On the other hand, we have to learn how to communicate. And certain people, I made a joke to someone yesterday, but it was a true joke. If you want to say something, first give your husband supper and then talk. Don't do it on an empty stomach, as an example. Don't do it at a time when he's going to be upset. Also, it depends how you say something. To some people, because the way it's said, you want to help them. Sometimes, though, you do not want to help a person. You do not want to go there because the way it was said really turned you off. So if you want to get something out of somebody, you have to know how to talk to them. You understand? If you want a child to go and pick up something from the floor and put it in the garbage, and you say, put that in the garbage, the child might resist you. If you say, you're such a sweet girl, you always help out so nicely.
It's so true, by the way. I nanny kids, and if I I'm telling them to sleep, they don't do it. But if I tell them, oh.
Exactly. So, but by the way, did you ever notice that the same thing goes for you? Depends how the person asked me. It depends what it sounded like, you know. You'll open up some of these. There's a lot now of where people asking you for tzedakah, right? These what do they call them now? Charities and other things. Where
yeah, when they call me names in Hebrew, I'm like, here, take all my money.
When they say it in Hebrew, you're saying. So that's how it works with you. With me, when I get so many of them, it's interesting to watch which ones are going to turn me on and which ones are not. Okay? So that's part of fundraising, is you have to know how to get to the person. But I'm saying in ourselves too, like, what is it going to make me want to do it? If my mother asks me to do it, I'm going to do it. Not because I necessarily want to do it, and not because I agree with her, but she's my mother. So if I can't get out of it, I'm going to do it. Okay? But if it's somebody else is asking me to do that thing, and I'm extremely busy or whatever it may be, or the way they said it to me was like, you didn't do it when I asked you last week, please do it now. I may not do it. You understand? So we have to learn to communicate properly in a way that's pleasant and going to make me want to do it out of love, not out of force. You understand? So when you're talking about, I want to tell him something, that he did something wrong, you have to know when to tell him, how to tell him, maybe sometimes through an example, sometimes, you know. I've botched up in my life many times on that.
Does it work with friends also?
Yeah.
Like anyone?
Anybody. We're human beings.
So let's say
And we're very sensitive. I want to tell you something. I always think about a person is really like a harp. The heart of a person is like a harp. Harp, the strings are very, very delicate. If you do it too strongly or whatever it is, you break them.
Okay, how do you deal with selfishness?
I don't know. I'm not good at that. I'm very turned off by selfishness person. Selfishness.
If you give an example of selfless, usually if they're helping
You mean the other person's selfish?
Yeah,
She's talking about when you're dealing with a selfish person.
For example, what are they doing? But most of the time, you're they're a good friend, but then.
But you know that they're selfish, so there's certain things you can expect from them, and the other things depends how you ask them. If you're going to make them feel. In other words, one second. A selfish person is thinking about themselves. If they know they're going to get something out of it, whether it be a compliment, whether it be a favor that they need, then you probably can get them to do it. So in other words, the same thing as you did with a child now, you're such a good girl, of course you're going to do this for me. If you say that to a person that even is selfish, they may want to do it because they got something out of it. They got a compliment out of it. They're going to be looked at as higher, better. So, yeah, the question, does compliments work with this person? Or does compliments not work with this person? They want the person to need something monetary.
It's weird.
Monetary?
Compliment like a friend.
Monetary, meaning so you're paying them for it. They know they're going to get a favor from it. They can get some from
You're
it.
encouraging the selfishness.
Or maybe the thing you need is more important than
Okay, but you can't like all day like be giving out. Like you have to.
you can. You
want them
can.
to like learn to be like normal. Like
So should you just say it straight up? You're being selfish, and
You can do that, but the question is how they're going to react. But yes, I think they have to know they're selfish, and you could say, "Listen, you know." But the question is, what'd you say?
You could like introduce it with like, do you want?
You want a piece of advice? Most people do not want a piece of advice. And if you give me, if you're going to
Some are
give,
open to hearing, like, and then it's like even if it's not so comfortable, they're like, oh.
it depends what kind of relationship you have and how well you communicate. You know,
But like other than that, it's a great friend.
it's a great friend.
Yeah.
Fine, but you know that certain things you'll never accomplish with that person, or you're going to have to find a certain way to get them to realize that. Sometimes being an example of somebody that's not selfish makes them feel guilty, or makes them see it, or just discuss a third party. I find discussing a third party is always a good idea. In other words, look at this girl, how she was so giving. Look at this friend of ours, a third person now, that she was so giving. Not really, it's so wonderful.
Oh, that's true, because then they'll like think like, oh,
Right, exactly. Because we don't like when to be attacked directly, like you say now. Do you want to hear? That's difficult. You understand? And you put your defenses on if you start criticizing me. Well, right now I don't want to hear, or I never want to hear. Some people never want to hear. I know people who never want to hear. What?
Yeah,
Or you want to be the friend, but she said she's a good friend in other ways. So the best way we do it is for you to keep discussing how you appreciate people that are giving, like, and you never look at that person in the face. Like sometimes I want to say something, and I have somebody in mind. I will never look at them directly in the face at that time, so they don't think I'm talking to them. But I'm just talking about. That's why it's beautiful to learn things of Chassidus. We learn what's right, what's wrong, and those they say whoever feels like the hat fits them will put it on. That's the Rebbe said. I'm a hat maker, and whoever feels the hat fits them will take it. Okay, so that's how it is in life. So as a teacher, I find that's the easiest way to say something, is to say it in class as a general concept that we're learning, and then hopefully the person will pick it up for themselves. Sometimes it doesn't happen. But if you're going to keep complimenting your third friends, it's going to get them. I told you that when I brought up my kids, we had the good boy and the bad boy. We used to tell stories about, Tadris, who was always doing things that were no good, and he kept getting himself into trouble, and we had, I don't know who the other one was, but say Yankel, and you're going to be such a good Yankel today, or you would, look what Tadris did to himself. We're not going to be Tadris. So I wasn't attacking the child, I wasn't telling the child, not even attacking, I wasn't basically saying, you are a Tadris or you're bad. I was talking about a third person. We all work well that way, much better, okay? So in Shalom Bais, we have to pick up how our husband, how sensitive he is. Could he take criticism? Could he not take criticism? Which way is going to work? Is it a third party that should say something? Like, let's say you want your husband to learn and doesn't have a shiur, right? If you're going to be a very nagging wife, go learn, go daven, go with the minyan, whatever. If you didn't bench, etc., it's not going to be very good for your Shalom Bais. But you want to get your husband to become a little firmer. Let me have some suggestions. It's a very practical thing, right? You get married, your husband doesn't go to minyan, and you would like him to start going, or you would like him to go Friday to the mikveh, or you'd like him to go join a certain shul, or whatever you want. You want him to start being more careful. What are you going to do?
Say that you love, like, I think, when you say I love, when you are connected or whatever, he's going to be like, oh, she loves that, I want to be
Right,
loved.
right. So if you're not critical,
Why? If they're
then he's going
married
to.
for a long time, he's gonna be like, okay, good.
We're talking about in the beginning
like
of
the
talking about the beginning of a marriage. It's
Long
hard.
time you go, no?
You basically say, this will make me very happy. I really don't need another diamond ring, or whatever it may be,
Yeah.
or another flowers for Shabbos. If you can please try this, I would love it. Or that's one way of doing it, and for some men it works. Give me another idea.
You want them to go to shul with them?
Okay, yeah, I would love to go to shul. Let's go together. Right? I don't want to walk myself. All I like to go as a couple. This, it's one of the things I would like doing as a couple. Whichever way. Many times you blame it on yourself. You really mean him, but you say you. What?
Yeah, Michigan's to go to shul, so come with me.
Yeah, I have this guy say I like going to shul. That's the only time I see friends. It's a social thing. I want to get to know the community. Let's go. And many women have gotten the husbands to go to shul that way. Yeah. Anything else? Yes.
If your husband, let's say he's not.
Wait. First of all, is there anybody have another?
Well, I'm thinking of something, but I'm not sure if this
Go
is
on.
smart or not. But like if I say, Leah here, her husband Moshe, he learns so well. She goes to shul. He goes to the mikveh. It's just amazing how Moshe.
But sometimes it might work. It might backfire very badly. Don't compare me to anybody else. Should have married him. Did marry me, and that's all. And what you can do is call a friend of his, or get him to have good friends, which means let's go tonight. I just met somebody in the street. She's a wonderful person. Another young couple like us. Let's go there for dinner, or they invite us for dinner. They're having a barbecue tonight, and you're thinking now long term. I want to be friendly with this guy. And then once he gets to know this guy and he likes the guy's going to invite him. I go to shul every Thursday night to the Rabbi Shia. It's so wonderful. Do you want to come with me? And then each time there's something, basically you call him and say, can you please invite my husband? Because I don't want to be a nagging person. Okay, so it should come from a friend. So you have to think ahead. I always tell the story. We had a young woman a girl who was a Mechon Chana. And she basically, her Yiddishkeit came from Lubavitch and from here. She was married to a doctor, and they moved out of the country, and they moved to a city where he basically also came through Nat Chabad and then reached Chabad, whatever, but he wasn't 100% all that into Chabad. In any case, so she knew that there's certain things she wanted, but she wasn't going to push. So the first thing she worried about when they went to the city is, what place are we going to live in? If we live in a Chabad community, then it'll be easier to be Chabad. We'll go to Chabad shul. If we don't live in a Chabad community, I'm not going to get him there. So what do I do? So she told him, listen, I've checked out a few communities. I really like the houses in this place. I think they're cheaper, they're nicer. She didn't mention Chabad because she didn't want to go there. She just said, I happen to like this community better. Because the houses are cheaper and nicer, whatever it is, I feel good there. So let's look for a house in this community. And then she made sure that the house that they picked was near the shul. Okay? Then later on she told them like this. In that city there's a problem with shchita. No problem. But she wanted Lubavitcher meat. And there's other kind of meat that's not Lubavitcher meat. But the Lubavitcher meat there was no Lubavitcher meat that you could just buy in the store. She'd have to order it from, in this case, Montreal. And, they went Canada somewhere in Montreal. So she told them, listen, I want to get a freezer. Because I don't want to go shopping every 2 weeks and get deliveries. I like when it's all in the freezer. So therefore, I want to order it's called a zeitel, a half a animal, right? A half a cow. And in other words, I need a big freezer to put in a lot of meat, so then I don't have to worry about it. So that's the way she went and ordered Lubavitcher meat, and there's no question. Otherwise, there's no Lubavitcher meat to be gotten in there. She'd have to get other kind of meat. So she thought again. She said, I like having a freezer, and I like having everything there. Okay. So in other words, she went and thought about, instead, another girl, basically, her husband was also, I think this other one was a doctor, and he was studying for, he wanted to get a job in a certain hospital, and basically, what the first thing they put him on, sort of like his shift was early, it was a night shift. And she realized, and he had been very new in Yiddishkeit, and therefore, putting on film in the morning is a whole big deal. Especially when you're now up a whole night and you're supposed to be on call. You could be on call, they'll call you at 7 o'clock in the morning, or whatever the shift was. It was at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, etc. You're going to be very busy, right? You might be called any minute. How can you be standing there a little bit embarrassed, a new Baal Tshuva, putting on film? They'll walk into the room and they see you in film. They'll call you as an emergency and you can't go because you're in film. So she mentioned once, did you daven? Did you put on? No, I didn't put on film. I was afraid they're going to come in any minute. But the shift ended, let's say, I guess it wasn't a night shift, it was an early morning shift, whatever it was. So what she did one morning is she drove to the hospital, and she was there at 6 o'clock in the morning with sunrise, and she says to him, I'm going to be on call now. In other words, when they come, I'm going to be there. So if they walk in, I'll say, yeah, I'm calling you in a few minutes. And he realized that he put on film and nothing happened. 1 day, 2 days, she did it, 2 days. At that time, he got used to putting on film at 6 o'clock in the morning, wherever it was. And he, Baruch Hashem, was okay. But he didn't have that guts, and he was afraid he's going to lose the job. Do you understand?
Yeah. Did it work with the other story, with the chicken? Or with the chicken?
Yeah, definitely. If he became Chabad, he became Chabad. Yes, but there were, whatever, yes. Yes, he did become, he definitely became Chabad, that all helped. Yeah. So these are things we have to think ahead of. That's what we, again, going back to our Bina. We have to really use a lot of thought into things. It's not like, how am I going to deal with this? This is what kind of life I want to lead. How am I going to get my husband there? How am I going to get my kids there? In other words, putting a kid in a not Chabad school and then expecting them to turn out Chabad doesn't really work very well. Even though you may feel that the Chabad school is not as clean, not as, I'm talking about now experience of people that went to other schools, they found them very frum, they were maybe more organized, but the end is their child didn't turn out the way they wanted because people go after their friends. You understand? So there were different issues. So all this has to be discussed before. It says, Chacham Einav V'Rosho. Okay? A Chacham, a smart person, has his eyes in his head. And Roes HaNolad, and he sees what's going to be in the future. You don't just see today, you see tomorrow. Okay? If you want Chabad children, you need to start with your husband. And you need to do it in a nice way. Or look for Chabad Shidduch first place, whatever is Bashar, whatever it is.
Even if you raise your kids perfect, like sometimes it's just
100%. But the same thing goes if they don't, for some reason a child doesn't feel loved because there's another sibling in the family that's smarter, a year younger and smarter, as an example. That could be an issue. They don't do well in school. If you're going to look at all the reasons why children go off, there's always reasons for it. Do you understand? And again, this needs a lot of, we need Siyata D'Shmaya. The bottom line is you need a lot of help from above. And a lot of davening, a lot of tilim, and a lot of everything. Thinking that you can do it on your own because you're smart is not going to do it. But yes, there are guidelines that you should follow, and definitely mashpiyim you should have. But a lot of davening helps, a lot of tilim helps, tzedakah helps, all this helps. And without it, and I can tell you from my experience, again, everything is Siyata D'Shmaya, help from above. But I used to write to the Rebbe about a lot of issues, and the Rebbe saved me from a lot of issues.
all your kids are.
Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. I'm praying for my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, etc. This is the most important thing for me. Okay? But I'm saying, but it's not me. In other words, it's easy to say it's not me and therefore relinquish any kind of responsibility and don't bother. The answer is it is me in the sense that you have to be totally there. But even when you're totally there, it doesn't mean it's going to work out. You need a lot of help from Shemaiah. And I could say the tears in many cases, and the bracha of the Rebbe. Listen, I know with certain cases I've done things that didn't make sense. Like I asked the Rebbe told me things that didn't exactly make sense, like sending a child to Israel and the child is 13 years old, and there's bombs falling, and there's these tilim, it just wasn't exactly a good time. And the Rebbe said Israel, and I sent the child to Israel. And it was great for the child. I just said, just don't go out of yeshiva. Do me a favor, this is not a time to go tour Israel. Okay, and others looked at me like, what are you doing? I said that I asked the Rebbe, would he send the child? The Rebbe said, send Israel. I sent Israel. And thank God. And other people said, it didn't make sense, so don't do it. Other times the Rebbe told me the cheapest yeshiva, cheapest and not expensive, will end up again sending to Israel. It came out the least expensive. So there's just very interesting things like that. But I believe that, I'm very big into writing to the Rebbe and following the Rebbe's advice. You don't find it, look at, wait and wait till the time comes and ask again or think again or whatever it may be. You understand? So we need a lot of help, whether it's Shalom Bais, whether it's Chinuch, and we can't take full credit for it, but at least feel that I did my best. But everybody does their best, but sometimes we underestimate what we can do, in the sense that we have to be a proactive parent and a proactive wife. Not a nudging wife, not necessarily a nudging mother, but proactive, saying it's going to happen, but nothing happens. Happens, you have to have a big mazel that you have perfect kids, and they're not interested in anything else but learning and davening and doing the right thing. Huh? No, not necessarily. There's work that went into them. Yes, I could say that whatever. There's work. You have to understand something. When you have parents that are not from, or family that's not from, and they're around them, it can affect them. You have to be, look, I remember, my daughter coming home from kindergarten, and her best friend was a girl that was not a house that I wanted her to be around. I didn't let her go to her friend. And the next year I asked the school to do me a favor and separate them because they liked each other a lot. And I saw that this girl my daughter asked one Shabbos, can I finally go there? I let her go there. And there was a whole bunch of boys there, big deal. They were boys, cousins. There was not a big deal. But the bottom line is I didn't want my daughter around having friends that were boys. She was only 6 or 7 or whatever it was. But that was not the kind of home I wanted her in. There was a television blaring in the house. I didn't want my daughter around the television that was blaring. So my rule was, she can come here anytime. We'll welcome her. But I don't want you going there. So after she went one time and asked her how it was, she says, Mommy, I don't think you want me here. So she already knew not to. And the second year, though, I saw that, we're better off early enough in the game, which was in first grade, and I asked them to please separate her. Wasn't great. In other words, my daughter had to make new friends, but I felt that was a better way to go.
Really?
Yeah, it worked.
Could have helped that girl,
I wasn't going to take any chances on a 6-year-old girl. This was my oldest daughter, and I'm risking my other kids as well. Maybe my daughter is going to be strong, but the next daughter is not going to be strong. There's a lot of risks in that. Okay?
Yeah.
I'll give you another example. The same daughter had a friend, and the mother was hardly ever home. There were no younger brothers and sisters. She was the youngest, and the mother was hardly ever home. And sometimes, she was a lot in our house, which was wonderful. But what I noticed is, and my daughter knows this well, was, asked her something like, why don't you go home for Havdalah at the end of Shabbos? My father's not there. My mother went away for the weekend. And we realized she was not exactly telling the truth. 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, there was a lot of untruth coming out of her mouth. Can I blame the kid? No, she had to cover up. She wasn't comfortable with this family situation, and she was comparing one home with another, and therefore she found herself lying. So I had 2 choices. Either stop the friendship, which I felt this poor girl needs a friend, a neighbor, someplace she can go to, or I'm going to be very honest with my daughter and tell her to beware. And that's what I did. We discussed it. We said, was this true? Was not true? Are you allowed to lie? You're not allowed to lie. Do I understand why she's lying? Because she's embarrassed. But you have to be careful not to do that. Okay? So I allowed, like you say, I felt she could influence her friend. I felt that she needed my house, this other girl. So I wasn't going to break the friendship. But again, I made it very clear what the situation was. We had an open relationship, my daughter and I had an open conversation about it. And basically said, whenever you see her doing that, you can even tell her, it's okay if your parents are not home. Everyone is different, and every situation is what it is, to try to get her out of it. You understand?
Was it successful?
What?
Was it successful?
They were friends for many, many years, Unfortunately, the other girl's life is not easy. What?
The other girl became more forthright?
You know what? I don't even remember. But she was definitely with them. There was, it was an okay relationship. So, chinuch education is really not easy. And a lot of thought goes into it. And every situation is. Okay, so you asked that question about lying. Again, we don't want to encourage lying, but mothers encourage a lot of lying. Like years ago, we used to go under the turnstile of a train, and say that you're under 6 or under 5 so that you can go for free, what are you teaching your child? When you tell a child, tell them that I'm not home. The child knows you're home. Just say, Mommy can't speak right now. You know, be careful with what you're doing because you're teaching kids to lie. And sometimes it's easier for us to do it that way. We have to think ahead. What am I doing with this? Even if I know the reason, my daughter doesn't know the reason, my son doesn't know the reason, they're going to look at me like, Mommy said lie, so why can't I lie? Okay? Okay. Is it, I don't know, what time is it now?
10 more minutes.
10 more minutes? Okay. Any more questions? Yes.
So if let's say your husband is, like, doesn't have smicha or whatever, are you able to ask him questions about, like, how should I do it, what should I do, and then take his answer as the answer, or should
No,
you
there are certain things that have to go to a Rav.
Okay.
I think we have to know our husbands.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing if you're going to be going medicine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your husband is not a doctor. I'm
Right.
not going to ask my husband which medicine to take if he's not a doctor. He may suggest something on his own. My mother gave it to my brother when he was sick, or from my experience, okay? But you have to know who to ask what. I think it's very important in the beginning of before marriage, or in the beginning of a marriage, to establish that everybody has a mashpia and which Rav we're going to. And you have to also have a relationship with a Rav that you can pick up your phone and ask. You understand?
Yeah.
Or ask somebody ask for you.
It's for minor things. For example, if he says, do this, like, you don't want to embarrass him and be like, well, I need to ask a rabbi, whatever.
No. Don't throw that at him anytime, no.
Right.
But you could just remember this was a question.
Mm-hmm.
This is what he thought it was.
Right.
I think it's different. I'm not going to go back to him. I'm going to try to find out from somebody else, from a Rav of mine, what is the halacha. And then you could bring up, not that I went behind your back or to double check you whether or not, right, whether you were right or wrong. That's not very nice at all. What you're going to do is, today, my friend brought up the same question today, or I learned something in class today, or I learned halacha. I'm just wondering what it, maybe we should check it out. I don't know if there's two opinions about it, that that's what it is. Okay? But you're allowed to say that I learned, even it says we don't go against parents, and you can't tell a parent, that's the wrong halacha. Father, you're not doing the right thing. Mother, you're not doing the right thing. But you could say, I think I learned it so this and this way. Could it be that it's this and this way? Right. The same thing with husbands. We have to show respect. Once we don't show respect, Shalom Bais goes deep down. Okay? So we have to be very respectful. Even if they're not so worthy of the respect, if you want them to become worthy of the respect, you help them become worthy of the respect by complimenting him. When you... I don't know if it's interesting that happens in class. When a child comes into class in the beginning of the year, and the teacher sort of says, oh, I remember, or you look to me like such a smart kid. I'm so happy you're in my class. That child is going to try to please that teacher forever. Okay? I had an aunt that came from, she moved to America. She was very neat. I was not necessarily, things fell from my hands. And I picked up something. I was trying to help her with a baby. I don't know what happened. Or I was maybe serving to the table, and something slipped from my hand. She called me Schlumper. Schlumper means a messy person.
Who called you?
An aunt of mine. And I love this aunt deeply. And she wouldn't remember it, and that's not a relationship today at all. But as a child now, a young child, she called me once a Schlumper. Every time I had to do something for her, things fell from my hands. It's like stuck. It's the same thing as when a teacher walks into a classroom and gives somebody a name or a title or a description, they make it happen. It's like going to happen. So in other words, if you tell a child you're stupid, or you tell a husband that you think he's stupid, it ain't going to work. But if you're going to tell him, you're so smart, look what you told me yesterday, such great advice you gave me. He's going to keep trying to give good advice. And the same thing we're going to do too. If he says to you, you're so pretty, You want to keep being pretty. Well, that was so kind of you. You're going to want to continue being kind. So let's try to do it the way of positive, because it helps. And it's not a matter of false, it's true. I'm going to reach my true potential of being kind if you're going to look up at my kindness. Or you're going to think I'm smart. I'm going to be smart. Okay? So we have to keep those compliments going. But it really, so when you respect your husband becomes respectful. If you're going to yell at him once a few times, you're a schlemazel. You can never get a job. You're no good. Or it's not going to work. Or you're so stupid, it's going to happen. They're going to become stupid and they're not going to find a job. So if you're very, very careful to keep positive, right? And just keep respecting. And if you're not going to respect the person, don't marry him. I just met with a girl, whatever. She had just gone out of Shidduch, and she asked me, she likes this about him, that about him, but this not. I said, do you respect him? So she said, some things yes, some things no. I didn't say anything, but I realized it's not going to work, and Ataka didn't. You need respect. Even if I don't respect everything, but the main things in life you respect. You understand? The things that are most important to you, you respect. So that you can always, when things go bad, go back and look at yourself and say, I married him because of so-and-so, and I still respect those things, and that he has. In other words, he's not the smartest, but he's extremely kind. What?
So cute.
But it's true, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's third, you understand? But if you marry a person because of money, by the way, and the money's gone, what happens then? And when you marry a girl for looks, what happens? And she's not so pretty anymore. What happens? It's gone. So therefore you should love the person, not the money and not the looks. Marry a person for things that are real and not passing. And I don't think anybody wants to get married to anybody because they like the way they look. They don't like who they are as a person. Or they like or you don't want to marry a person just for his money, and that you don't really have a person. You have money. You know what I'm saying? It's a way you want to be comfortable, so you're marrying the comfort. I don't know. I wouldn't want to be a guy or a girl that's being married for a thing like that. Personally, I came from a place that had money, and I didn't want anybody. In other words, I wouldn't want to marry anybody that wanted a girl that had money. I want to be respected for who I am as a person. Not because my father's going to give them a few dollars. Instead, let's make sure we have a home and furniture. Do you understand? Because you're not loving me, you're loving my money. Or loving where I came from. You like my yichus, you like my money, you like my, I don't know what. Do you understand? You want to be loved for who you really are, for your essence. I don't know if I told you this famous story, that I had a friend who was in camp with many, many years ago. And she was a wonderful girl, very, 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 very talented. She got married, and she had a bunch of kids. And she unfortunately, got sick. She got MS. MS is a debilitating sickness. It gets progressively worse and worse. Eventually, you can hardly move. And in the beginning, my husband was very supportive, but basically, there were 9 kids in the house. I don't remember how many there were. He ended up having to do increasingly more and more and just get somebody to take care of her in the house. And he was raising 9 kids himself. He had to marry off 9 kids himself. He had to send kids to school, 9 kids himself. I mean, it wasn't, the older ones helped with the younger ones. But I said, basically, he was, as the situation became worse, it was not easy to have her with a wheelchair, with whatever it is in the house. And she went down to the basement. He got her apartment in the basement, make sure she had enough help. But as time passed, more and more, he was still a young man in his 30s, and he doesn't have a wife. His wife's alive, but not there. And it's another, worse than a kid in the house. And eventually, it was easier to have her out of the house. He took again a beautiful part of her, whatever it was. And she said, she can hardly speak, but she basically said to a third friend of mine, she says, he would like to divorce me to be able to get another wife, and I understand it. He says, but I couldn't promise him under the chuppah. I did the best I could as a wife. I was a good mother. I was a good wife. I was there for him. It's not my fault that this is what God did to me.
Do you think that's right that he divorced her?
We're going to discuss that in a minute. Okay? You have to think of both sides of the coin.
It is. What is he supposed to do?
No, it's what.
Okay. So in other words, understand something. The point is now that we cannot know what's going to be in the future. Do we want anyone to drop us? No. Could you understand his point of view? He had 9 kids, and he had to make shidduchim for them, and this was going to hurt their shidduch. Besides for himself, he has no wife. What kind of life does he have? And she's not going to get better. She's only going to get worse and worse. Okay? Do I blame him? No. Do I think what he did was right? Was she right? She's right. She's right. He's right. They're both right. On the other hand, would I ever tell a child of mine to do that? No. Would I myself do that? Probably not. You understand what I'm trying to say? But could you blame him? No. He has no life. He made sure she's taken care of, that she has enough help. The kids come visit her. But she was crying. It's not my fault. I see my kids once in a while. The kids are busy. They got married. They have their own children now, and it's a pain. Okay. I'm just giving you a life, scenario. So this is something that has to do with sickness, but we're talking about now when a person marries you he married her to have a family, to have a wife, and to have a companionship, and to have etc. But when a person marries for money or marries for looks, then that's going to pass. And we all want to be we all want to be appreciated for who we are as people, not for any bank accounts, not for any beauty, not even for health. Something we've got to think about before. If a person doesn't feel well, do we want to go there? Can I deal with it? That's something else. You understand? This is a part of our value system. But we all, so sometimes, we mentioned this before, that we're walking around trying to attract a guy because of our looks, but then he only respects our looks, doesn't expect anything else, so he doesn't really respect us. That's what he wants, that's where his head's at, that's not right. I'm sorry that I'm making you sad.
No, it's okay.
It's a sad story.
It is a sad story.
I don't even know. I lost track. Even as a friend, right? They used to have parties for her. I used to go. Did I continue going? No. Do I know what's with her? No. She's probably now.
There's something I don't know if you do. Okay, I'll ask you after.
Anybody else? Or lunch? Huh? Rabbi Green. Okay.
Thank you.
What do I do with this?